Welcome back, everyone. You know who this is. It's Mr. Beat, and we're talking about every U.S. territory today. Explaining, of course, is Mr. Beat. I am excited. So when we talk about the U.S. territories, what I know, of course, as a U.S. citizen, I have known about the 50 United States. They've joined the Union ever since 1776. So surely, then we've expanded through the Spanish-American War. We got the Philippines, which we gave back. Then we have Guam. We used to have Cuba. We gave back. We have Marshall Islands, the U.S. Virgin Islands. We have... What am I missing? There's a few things. I'm not even sure. Let's learn. Puerto Rico, of course. Let's go.
What the Bjork? My name is Mr. Beat, and I was born in the USA. The United States. There are 50 states in the United States, which you apparently already knew. But did you know that there are also territories in the United States that are not states? You know, they're territories. Okay, you already knew that too. Apparently, I'm having a hard time reading my audience right now. The United States has...
Let's look. Atoll just means small island. So the big ones is Puerto Rico, American Samoa, which is interesting, right? Then you get the U.S. Virgin Islands, Northern Mariana Islands, Guam, which is technically a big one, Wake Island, Johnston Atoll, Midway Atoll, Navassa, Kingman, Jarvis, Howland, Baker, Palmyra.
14 territories around the world. Or 15. Or maybe even 16. But probably 14. Okay, we'll mention all 16. That said, of these, only 5 have permanent populations. All but one of them are unincorporated, meaning the U.S. Constitution doesn't automatically apply to them. All of them are scattered throughout either the Caribbean Sea or Pacific Ocean. You've heard of the Pacific Ocean, haven't you? It's the big one. Look, you donk. They already know that the U.S. has territories, and they already know what the Pacific Ocean is. Aren't you going to define what a U.S. territory is? Well, someone's got a stinky booty. A United States territory is a piece of land that belongs to the United States that's not a state.
Okay.
Think of them as places that are kind of in the U.S. They're controlled by the U.S., but folks in them don't have the same political rights. There. You happy? No? I'm sorry to hear that. Anyway, here's every U.S. territory explained. First, let's go through the 5 territories that are inhabited by humans. Speaking of which, more than 3.6 million people live in one of these 5 territories.
Wow.
Of the 5, 4 are organized, which just means the federal government has granted them official permission to govern themselves. Let's start with the one with the most people,
Puerto Rico.
Well, I made a whole video comparing Puerto Rico to the District of Columbia, but here are just a few quick facts about the territory. Located here in the Caribbean Sea, about 1,000 miles southeast of Miami, Puerto Rico is the most populous U.S. territory by far. Approximately 9 out of every 10 people living in U.S. territories call Puerto Rico home. More than 3.2 million people live there, which is more than the population of all these American states.
Not Alabama, but dang, that's a lot. Big ones too, like Nebraska, Iowa. Wow.
That said, its population has
That's a really cool fort, or citadel, whatever that is.
recently been dramatically decreasing. In fact, today more than twice as many Puerto Ricans live outside of Puerto Rico on the mainland than in Puerto Rico itself. The U.S.
I mean, it probably has to do with like rights, right?
took over the island after defeating Spain in the Spanish-American War in 1898. See, they still mostly speak Spanish in the territory. Interesante. Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizens who can move freely between the island and the mainland. However, they can't vote in federal elections. But they also generally don't have to pay a federal income tax, so there's that. Main industry.
So there's not representation without, sorry, there's not taxation without representation, which was a core belief in the original standing of the Constitution.
Industries in the territory include
Or the Declaration of
pharmaceuticals,
Independence.
electronics, and tourism. Puerto Ricans have limited representation in the federal government. What that means is that they get a member in the U.S. House of Representatives, but that member can't vote
He's just there.
on final legislation. And since Puerto Rico's not a state, they don't get representation in the U.S. Senate. And nope, Puerto Rico doesn't have electoral votes in the Electoral College. Puerto Ricans can only vote for president if they move to one of the states. Over the years, Puerto Rico has had
If they move to the state, do they have to still go through some sort of process, or are they immediately available?
referendums on statehood, and in the most recent one, more people voted in favor of it. However, Congress hasn't acted on it, and
Because we've been over this before, but mainly I probably will never see in my lifetime Puerto Rico become a state unless something massive happens. Just in the fact that there is, just like the states' rights in 1860 or even before 1860, when we came in the precipice of civil war because of states' rights over slavery, the bipartisanship of the land that we live in today is not that. It's not frequent. So given that there's such a divide between the Republican or conservative and the liberal and the Democratic houses of Congress and people, there is such a obvious statement that if Puerto Rico becomes a state, more likely than not, it will break the balance of the power, which then you would have to introduce another state to balance the power. So if you're to induce a new state, you would probably have to either divide a current state or have to assert a new territory to become state status. Like simple, you could divide, I don't know, let's just pick a fun example. Washington, D.C., but Washington, D.C. also would probably not be a good factor if you're a conservative or Republican, given that Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. would probably both lean more towards Democratic, Democrat. So I don't see it happening in my lifetime. It could, though. I don't see it, though. What do you guys think?
statehood doesn't seem likely anytime soon.
Guam!
Located way out here in the western Pacific Ocean,
Who owns the islands above Guam?
closer to the Philippines than even Hawaii, Guam is an island in the Micronesia region. It's about 17 times smaller than Puerto Rico. Main industries in the territory include tourism, transportation, and literally the American military. Since Guam is located in a strategically important spot in the world, the island hosts major Air Force and Navy bases. Guam is the second most populous U.S. territory with around 169,000 people. Like Puerto Rico, its population
That's picture.
is declining, but only slightly, and only since the COVID-19 pandemic. Also, like Puerto Rico, those who live in Guam are U.S. citizens and can travel to the mainland freely. Also,
I wonder if there's a chance that someone's watching this video in Guam. Hi, how are you? I wonder, do people identify more to their territory or to be an American? That's very important. And I guess that probably differs by territory.
like Puerto Rico, because Guam's not a state, folks there get limited representation in the federal government. So a non-voting delegate in the U.S. House, no representation in the Senate, and no voting for president. And finally, the U.S. also took over the island after defeating Spain in the Spanish-American War. But unlike Puerto Rico, they speak Chamorro and English there. But hey, Guam is just but one of the Mariana Islands. What about the
Oh, that's interesting. So that's the North Mariana Islands, also a territory of the United States. Okay.
Guam's neighbors to the north are part of the same archipelago, but make up a completely different U.S. territory, the Northern Mariana Islands.
There must be like some tectonic plates nearby, how these things formed.
Or
It's in the Ring
CNMI.
of
These
Fire.
14 islands used to also be controlled by Spain. The U.S. could have taken them over after defeating Spain in the Spanish-American War, but didn't want them. Huh? So Germany took control of them. After World War I, Japan took control of them.
And then after World War II,
After World War II, the United States eventually ended up controlling them after all. Around 47,000 people currently live on the islands, the vast majority of them living on the island of Saipan. Like Puerto Rico, its population has been dramatically declining in recent years. Like Guam, its main industries include tourism, transportation, and the American military, although not nearly as much as Guam. Like Puerto Rico and Guam, residents of the CNMI are U.S. citizens who can travel to the mainland freely. Also, like Puerto Rico and Guam, folks there get limited representation in the federal government. So again, no representation in the Senate, no voting for president, and a non-voting delegate in the U.S. House. Which, hey, I gotta meet that person.
that's pretty cool.
My name is Kim King Hines.
That's right. A while back, I had the opportunity to speak with Kimberlyn King Hines, the current delegate to the U.S. House representing the islands.
I was born and raised on the island of Tinian. It's weird, right? Because we can't vote on the floor, but we are able to vote in these committees. The interesting part of it is that we are able to vote in these committees, but
Like committees that are created by the House Representative on certain issues, like there's like there was like a committee of technological development or digital transformation, so they could vote within that committee on certain issues, I'm guessing.
not when the vote actually counts. My vote is needed to be able to get it to the finish line. It's just that I can't get it past
Over
the finish line.
yeah.
The biggest challenge in the CNMI is our economy has not been able to grow. The conversation that we're having back in the CNMI relates directly to economic development and the fact that the CNMI just does not have the population to be able to sustain a workforce that's adequate to support any type of industry.
So for somebody who is not familiar with the beautiful part of the world that you call home, how would you describe it to them?
It is one of the most peaceful places that you could ever live on. Around 80 degrees all
Looks beautiful too.
year round.
I got to visit every territory as long as we keep them.
There's 2 seasons, wet and dry. It's either raining or it's sunny. Aside and separate from the weather and the beautiful blue waters is the sense of community that still exists in the Marianas, the sense of family.
I know that more Americans are familiar with Guam.
Yeah.
So what's the dynamic there with the relationship with that more populated big brother to the south?
You know, like Guam is like the city, right? That's where
And it's crazy to think about because there's only 169,000, which are like some small metros in the United States.
we go shop.
Like the city I lived in, is Tuscaloosa, Alabama, which is not a big city at all, and it boasts a population about the size of Guam.
You know,
So why don't Guam and the Northern Mariana Islands just join forces?
the Marianas at the time decided that it wanted a closer relationship with the United States, so it broke off from the Congress of Micronesia and decided that it was going to negotiate a political agreement with the United States. During that conversation, there was a conversation between the CNMI and Guam with regards to reunification, and it was actually put out to vote, and Guam was like, nope, we don't want to, and so here we are. I think that
Wow.
has like
That could be an interesting combination of those two.
cause some ill feelings that kind of still linger among, a certain generation. A lot of the younger folks want to see a unified Marianas, maybe not politically, but culturally, in terms of just collaboration and working together to revive the culture.
Well, dang, I learned a lot from Representative King Hines.
Me too.
I wish the other representatives from the territories would have gotten back to me.
Virgin Islands, right off the coast of Puerto Rico.
What? More islands? Yes, more islands.
They're all islands.
This time, it's the U.S. Virgin Islands, not to be confused with the British Virgin Islands, which are next door, which most people just call the Virgins. I mean, Virgin Islands. Oh, you're confused right now, aren't you? Yep, but this time it's back to the Caribbean Sea. Well, technically, the U.S. Virgin Islands are in the Atlantic Ocean, but they're just 40 miles east of Puerto Rico.
Same thing. Like, it's interesting that these islands are Not Greater Puerto Rico, you know?
Oh, see? There they are. It includes a group of more than 50 islands, but only 3 main islands are inhabited: St. Thomas, St. Croix, and St. John. They are saints because the islands died and went to heaven. Heaven on earth! They're beautiful places, am I right? Beautiful. Beautiful. Like Puerto Rico, Guam, and the CNMI, residents of the U.S. Virgin Islands are U.S. citizens who can travel to the mainland freely. Also, like Puerto Rico, Guam, and the CNMI, folks there get limited representation in the federal government. So no representation in the Senate, no voting for president, a non-voting delegate, yada yada. You know this by now, come on. The main industries on the islands are tourism, government services, and rum production. Like Puerto Rico and the CNMI, the population of the U.S. Virgin Islands has been dramatically declining in recent years. Still, it's the third
I'm guessing like all this has to do with like going to the United States for economic opportunity.
most populous
Mainland
U.S.
United
territory,
States.
with around 87,000 people.
Pretty bad.
Most
I mean,
who live on
that's not bad.
the islands are Afro-Caribbean, descendants of enslaved Africans who mostly worked on various sugar plantations in the area. Denmark controlled the islands for many years until the United States bought them in 1917. Due to that Danish colonial heritage, today the U.S. Virgin Islands is
So we can do business with Denmark. So I wonder if we'll ever do business with Greenland. Probably not.
the only U.S. territory where they drive on the left side of the road, despite most cars there still having the steering wheel on the left side of the vehicle. Weirdness. But they still speak English there.
American Samoa, which is such a weird one. I want to hear what he has to say about American Samoa because it's part of an island that's also Samoa. Such a weird thing.
Back to the Pacific Ocean, back out to the middle of nowhere. But this time, the South Pacific Ocean, way down here. American Samoa is further away from Hawaii than New York City is from Los Angeles. Not to be confused with the country of Samoa, it's the only inhabited American property south of the equator and southernmost U.S. territory. Made up of technically 7 islands, American Samoa actually makes up the eastern portion of the Samoan archipelago. And the international dateline splits the archipelago, meaning over here it's today and over here it's tomorrow.
That's crazy.
Residents of American Samoa are not U.S. citizens, they're U.S. nationals, bruh, which means they don't get quite all the privileges of citizens. Well, that's kind of messed up. American Samoa is also the only
We should just give it to Samoa then. Right?
inhabited territory that is unorganized, which means it technically doesn't get to govern itself.
Yeah, I'm against this wholeheartedly. Give me a synopsis or an understanding of why they shouldn't have governance, but also they should not have the same rights as like Guam or Puerto Rico. Let me know.
That said, American Samoa still has its own local political system.
Okay.
A network of local leaders from village to village. So saying it is, quote, unorganized is a bit misleading.
Okay.
The vast majority of residents of the territory are ethnic Samoans. Major industries there include retail, agriculture, and tuna canning. Indeed, tuna canning is a huge part of American Samoa's economy. Like all the other inhabited territories, residents of American Samoa can travel to the mainland freely, but get limited representation in the federal government. Just over 45,000 people live there, and most of them have at least one parent born outside of the territory. The population there is also declining. Noticing a pattern here? Since most of their residents are, you guessed it, Samoan, most can speak Samoan, but many also speak English.
I wonder how many of American Samoas go to Samoa.
Hey! I speak English. Oh, and How did the United States get American Samoa? It kind of just took it, but the locals mostly went along with it. So now how about all those uninhabited territories? Well, most are used for military, scientific, or environmental purposes, and yep, most are also located in the Pacific. Most were claimed under the Guano Islands Act of 1856, a law Congress passed that said Americans get unclaimed islands with lots of guano, aka poop. Located here, it's actually an atoll, a chain of tiny islands connected by coral reefs surrounding a lagoon. It used to be inhabited.
That's what an atoll is.
There was an airfield and hotel here. Today, members of the military still hang out here, but none permanently. Wake Island was also the site of a major battle in World War II.
Major.
What's this, another atoll with an even more famous World War II battle?
Oh yeah, this was the turning point of the Pacific War for sure.
Located here, Midway is famous for its military history and crucial role in the Battle of Midway during World War II. It's also famous for being a spot where these giant birds called albatrosses like to hang out. At one time, as many as 2,356 people lived here, believe it or not. Today though, it's pretty chill. Midway actually does have about 50 people living there, but people generally don't live there that long. It's mainly military folks, contractors, and folks who work for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, as it's now mostly a wildlife refuge. Midway is technically part of the Hawaiian archipelago.
Then why isn't it just part of Hawaii?
Located here, Johnston is similar to Midway in that there has been a military presence there, but now it's mostly a wildlife refuge. Over the years, it's been used as a refueling spot, an airbase, a secret missile site, a testing site for nuclear and biological weapons, and a place to store very dangerous chemical weapons. Goodness. Today, though, it's a much quieter place. Hardly any Americans work there, unless they are killing crazy ants.
Palmera.
Located here between Hawaii and American Samoa, quite literally in the exact middle of the Pacific Ocean, it's Palmyra. It's also a nature reserve, part of the Pacific Islands Heritage Marine National Monument, the world's largest marine protected area for real. Yeah, a few scientists and contractors work there, and if they ever had a kid there, that kid would be fully protected under the U.S. Constitution. Let's go! You see, Palmyra is the only U.S. territory that is incorporated, meaning the U.S. Constitution automatically applies to all residents. But yeah, ain't nobody been born there. But maybe you can be the first person ever
Yeah, that wouldn't work because I'm already born.
born in the Palmyra Atoll. Go for it.
What is that? Oh, it's a crab.
Located here, this tiny atoll also acts as a wildlife refuge.
Nice.
Located near Baker Island, both are part of the larger Phoenix Islands. It looks like a cucumber and also acts as a wildlife refuge. This is famously the island where Amelia Earhart was supposed to land to refuel on her 1937 world trip that she didn't survive. Howland and Baker Islands are the last two places on Earth to experience a day and thus, you know, enter a new year. Located over here, not that far from Baker and Howland, Jarvis is also a tiny island that also acts as a wildlife refuge. Other than American Samoa, it's the only other U.S. territory south of the equator, but just barely, okay?
Kingsman Reef. I'm interested on this one.
Located here, about halfway between Hawaii and American Samoa, it's another tiny island that acts like a wildlife refuge. Back to the Caribbean. Okay, there's actually disputes with the rest of these.
Navassa.
located between Jamaica and Haiti. Haiti and the United States have been fighting over it for a while. It's been settled off and on over the years, but no one lives there now. It's a wildlife reserve. Located here, it's barely there. It's mostly a reef and just a very few tiny islands. Colombia actually claims it, and the United States hasn't.
I guess the best thing to use for this is like claiming, because you have like the 50 nautical, isn't it 50 nautical miles off your territory is your national waters. I guess that's the best. That's why China dredges a lot in the South China Sea.
Bothered fighting the claim, so I'm not even sure if it should be on this list, to be honest. And finally, located here, Colombia also claims it, but the United States still does as well. Just like Serranía Bank, it's mostly a reef and a few tiny islands. So that's it. I just explained every U.S. territory. And I really hope I explained them, because this video is called Every U.S. Territory Explained.
Very good. As always, Mr. Beats videos are awesome. Some of these territories, I mean, they should be given a little bit more, you know, I would say, especially like American Samoa and others, they should be given a little bit more level grounds with the rest of the territories. I say we should be very much binary. You're the territory, you're a state. If you're a territory, you have these rights. If you're not, you have these rights. I don't know if I have much more to say. We were very thorough throughout this video. I appreciate you guys as always. Consider subscribing. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Bye-bye.